do that again.
Take two. Hey everyone, I'm at Canyonlands National Park in the Needles District. I'm about to do a 5-day backpacking trip, starting with Big Spring Canyon out to Chesler Park. And then I'm going to do a big kind of figure-8 loop around, but I'm going to get on the trail, so I'll explain more as we go. Let's get going. So I'm heading down Big Springs Canyon to the right. And that is the island in the sky out there in the distance. Here's our first look at the Needles. There are a lot of interesting looking hoodoos out here. couple of hikers up ahead. I was just talking to them. Yeah, I've already come across quite a few groups of people out here. October is a very popular time to come out here to the Needles. All right, I think it's time to tell you guys a little bit more about my plan. So today, as I said earlier, I am heading out to Chesler Park via Big Spring Canyon, and I'm going to camp at CP4. So this day is about 8.5 miles. And tomorrow, on day 2, I'm going to head out probably to Druid Arch, and then I'm going to camp back in this canyon in Big Spring at BS2, and then I'm actually going to do kind of a figure 8 loop. So on the 3rd day, I'm actually going to come back to the car and restock my food and water. I think it's a little bit easier so that I don't have to carry everything for this trip. Lighten the load a little bit since there's so much technical hiking, going up and down slick rock and such. And then the remaining couple of days will be spent looping around to Lost Canyon and back up through Squaw Canyon. All right, I'm just coming across the campsite for BS1 or Big Spring 1. And here we have a trail junction sign for Big Spring Canyon. So we have 3.7 miles to Chesler Park. There are also a lot of these fin-shaped features. If you look closely through this pass here, you can kind of see the Island in the Sky District way off in the distance. So I kind of just came up this sort of slot in the rocks here, and now I'm up on a slick rock bench. And if you look close enough, you can kind of see the trail down there that I came up from, and you can kind of see the cairns down there. I don't know if I can pick up the detail just yet, but I'm seeing a lot of interesting rock features like some hoodoos, some spires. Looking back where I came from, you can see a lot of the Island in the Sky District and the LaSalle Mountains. So yeah, I'm just hiking up on the slick rock bench now. I'm blown away by the views up here. This is actually my first time hiking this particular part of this trail. I've been here a couple times in the past, but never done this trail before. And as you can see, there's cairns all along the way, so you shouldn't get lost. If you do get lost, go back the way you came and start looking for cairns. Pretty good view of the Needles. On the other side of these is Chesler Park, where I'm going to camp. Another thing you'll see frequently in the Needles are these undercut type features. We're actually going to be seeing a lot more of these. Here's some of the finer detail in the weathering patterns of the slick rock that you walk on. It's all kind of pockmarked. And all along the way, you'll see a lot of interesting rock formations with undercuts. And this trail just kind of follows this slick rock kind of bench all around until it meets into Elephant Canyon. All right, it looks like we are approaching a pass that I have to climb up and over. I'm still blown away by these views at every turn. So here's a shot of the slick rock cliffs that I just descended. Something you frequently see in the Needles also are these sort of caves, kind of more like slot canyons. That one is not on the trail. There are a lot of these mushroom-shaped hoodoos everywhere. And there is the trail ahead. Just a look at the canyon walls and the undercuts. Hopefully soon I will be heading into Elephant Canyon. This is turning out to be quite a long day. So my original plan had me looping around Chesler Park and taking the Joint Trail. And for those who don't know, the Joint Trail is kind of like a slot canyon, but it's just a giant cracked rock. And that would add significant miles, at least 3 or 4 miles onto the total mileage for the day. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do that today. We'll see how I am when I get to Chesler Park and how much daylight is left over. That is one massive structure. Okay, it looks like we got a trail junction coming up here. So we're going to Chesler Park, 1.4 miles. So again, I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to the Joint yet. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up camp first at CP4 in about 1.5 miles. And I'm approaching kind of a little slot canyon in here. But it's not a big deal. Nature, as you can see, has cut nice little stairs for us all the way down. I love when nature gives us a helping hand by making a staircase in the rocks. Okay, this is really cool. I'm really digging this thing. All right, here I am in Elephant Canyon. So I'm actually at the trail junction. This is actually one of the most popular parts of all of the Needles District. If you're gonna see people, it's gonna be along Elephant Canyon. But anyway, I still got a short distance to go. I have a lot of climbing to get up into Chesler Park, so I'm gonna head this way. And I'm probably gonna make camp right away when I get out there. And then if I have daylight left, I will try to get out to the joint trail and film that. 0.8 miles to Chesler Park. And here's a view of the trail that I came down on into Elephant Canyon. And then looking ahead to the area where Druid Arch is. It's just down that way, about 1.5 miles. It's pretty rocky through here. Whoa. All right, I am on the final push to Chesler Park. There is one short but difficult climb before we get down into there. This is the cryptobiotic soil that the Park Service people tell you about. They don't want you trampling on it. It's what helps the plants grow out here. It's actually a pretty steep climb. Doesn't look like much from here. And then you descend the other side, and then you're in Chesler Park. And you can hear some other hikers nearby. This area is quite popular. It's kind of like a big amphitheater. Classic needle scene. All right, 0.2 miles to Chesler Park, and then it's less than half a mile from there to get to CP4. Oh, that's tough with that pack. Whew. Okay, we are officially in Chesler Park. So I'm going to go in the direction of the joint trail, which is 2 miles. Here's a nice view of Chesler Park. And that is the maze out in the distance. And if you see those rocks, not the ones in the foreground, but the ones in the background, behind those is where my campsite is. And that's just kind of a better shot of the area where the joint trail is and the location of the maze district. So as you can see, the Chesler Park area is very sandy, and that makes the walking a little bit slow. I actually kind of missed the slick rock, but I am almost to my camp. But it's a big, wide open area. It's pretty amazing. So I was about to set up my tent, and right in the spot I'm gonna set up, I noticed this huge print. I'm trying to figure out what it is because it's really big. Here's my shoe for size. The only thing that could be is probably bear. It's kind of unusual, but I have heard of bears coming out to the Chesler Park area. Well, I've made camp here at CP4. So today was an awesome hike. I was just blown away by the scenery. I'm gonna make some food and then I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do from there. No, I'm not filtering, but since I brought the gear for it, I might as well fill it the clean and easy way without losing any water. All right, what I think I've decided I'm gonna do is actually try to hike out on the joint trail. There's actually a couple that's camping at CP5 and they just went that way about half an hour before me, so I think I might be able to get at least out to it and film it and just see it for myself. If not, I'll turn around when it starts getting dark. It's only maybe half a mile away from my camp. So traveling a lot lighter, so I should be able to make it. Somewhere in there is my campsite. I think that's the joint down there. Rather than go through there, I decided to go up to this awesome viewpoint instead. All right, the sun is going down, so I need to hightail it back to my campsite. I've got probably 20, maybe 25 minutes of the last light. Brought my headlamp. Let's hope I don't need it, but I'm gonna skedaddle. All right, I made it back to my camp. It is just about dark here. It's a really long day, so I'm gonna make dinner now and call it a night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, good morning. It is day 2. So today I decided that instead of going to Druid Arch, what I'm actually going to do is go down the joint trail like it originally intended to yesterday. And I'm going to loop back around Chesler Park and then go down into Elephant Canyon again. And then I'm gonna head into Big Spring Canyon where I'm gonna camp for the night. Here's kind of the back side of my campsite. I am just kind of hanging out at the moment, charging my gear up. One of the cool things about slick rock is how grippy it is. So that's a pretty steep angle that it's just sitting there. All right, so check this out. There is this cave. Couldn't show it yesterday because it was so dark out. Right next to my camp, well, in my camp. It's actually really steep, can't tell on camera. Let's go up it. Huh. Okay. That's a pretty cool view. All right, I am hiking on day 2, going towards the joint. Your voice echoes in here. This is really cool. Got another group of people behind me. Ooh, it's echoing quite a bit. This is awesome. So we have a neat little 4-way junction here. That's the way you go. That's just a big old boulder wedged. It probably used to be the top of one of those giant hoodoos. All right, so that was the joint trail. That was friggin' cool. I'm really glad that I did that. I'm gonna head down this canyon and I'm gonna make a big loop back around to Chesler Park and then head back out to Elephant Canyon and then hop over some slick rock slopes through a saddle, get kind of into the area where like Squaw Canyon is and cut over to Big Spring Canyon, and that's where I'm gonna camp tonight. The cool toadstool hoodoo. Looks like the trail continues down there. This might be one of the most epic views I've ever seen. There's a precariously balanced rock out there. All right, so I've intersected with the joint trailhead. And now what I have to do is follow the Jeep road that's out here a ways until I connect back up with Chesler Park. And as you can see, there's actually some nice little shaded benches over here. And there's also another one over there. And there's also a pit toilet bathroom. So that's convenient. If you see the rock formation that looks like two horns sticking up, just to the right of that is the Devil's Pocket. Kind of reminds me of like when you do this. You can see some rocks just barely hanging on up there. All right, I have reached the turnoff back to Chesler Park. So I'm going to take that and probably have some lunch before I complete the loop today. Well, I'm just up here on this little bench taking a break. This is some hard climbing through here. These are all very challenging trails. You have a lot of stair-step type climb ups and stuff where you have to scramble with both your feet and your hands. So it's pretty exhausting work. I'm still on the approach climbing up back into Chesler Park. So yeah, this is turning out to be a long day. I'm not even, probably only a third of the way through my entire hike today. Maybe not even that far. But yeah, I'm gonna hang out and rest for a while and get back on the trail. So from the little spot I'm hanging out at, so I had to cross over that gap there and climb up that. And that is kind of where I came from. So I guess you'd call this kind of an arch. All right, I've come across another trail junction. So I have 1.2 miles to Chesler Park. I've actually taken the Devil's Kitchen before. That's a really cool campsite in the Devil's Pocket, or it's also called DP1. Alright, so I just climbed up all of that. Trail is somewhere down there. Here we are at this sort of a short slot canyon, and in the distance you can see Chesler Park up ahead. All right, we are looping back around to Chesler Park soon. All right, I'm back in Chesler Park. I'm gonna go back down the way I came to Elephant Canyon. So since I already filmed that yesterday, I'm not gonna film the way down today. All right, I am back in Elephant Canyon, and I am heading up the canyon towards the direction of Druid Arch, but I'm actually going to turn off on a side trail called No Name Canyon, which I'm gonna follow up onto a slick rock bench, which will take me to a set of ladders and a tunnel, and eventually that'll lead me over another pass and down into Big Spring Canyon, where I plan to camp for the evening. Elephant Canyon is a bit of a slog because there's this deep beach stand, and it's really slow going walking on this stuff. All right, we've come to another trail junction. Druid Arch would be 2.5 miles that way, but actually we're not actually going to the Squaw Flat campground, probably going within 1.5 miles of it into Big Spring Canyon. So we're going that way. Here's looking back the way I came. And just a shot of the canyon walls. Looking up the upper part of No Name Canyon. And eventually we're gonna get up onto those slick rock benches at the end of this canyon. What's in front of me is basically just a giant rock wall. So I've been seeing these large holes kind of sideways opening all over the place. I imagine they house, I don't know, rodents, marmots, badgers. I'm not sure. That was one of those climbs that you hate while you're doing it, but the views at the top are well worth it. So I just up climbed that. That was one of the more difficult ones. I am pretty winded from that. So my GPS tells me I have about 2.5, maybe 2.6 miles to go, but it is going to be a long 2.6 miles. There's some technical stuff coming up. And this is just a quick look down where I came from No Name Canyon. And these are the classic needles that everybody talks about. All right, so we are approaching the first ladder out of 2 for today. This one's about 20 feet high, I think. All right, climb the first ladder. Feels a little sketchy. It's still vibrating from me climbing it. Let's look at the details in these rocks. All right, there's the second ladder I just came down. It's slightly shorter than the first one. I didn't film myself doing it because there were a couple of guys coming up and I didn't want to inconvenience them. Anyway, here's the view in the upper part of Squaw Canyon. And I'm actually going to be camping there on the third night. I'm actually going to go over a saddle into a different canyon. But this is just one of the most breathtaking, stunning views. I always wonder about these side canyons with these pour-offs. Like, I always wonder if anybody has ever actually traveled up them. I don't doubt it. And dead ahead is the tunnel. And down there is the peaceful and serene Squaw Canyon. There's some more of the detail down in the drainage next to Squaw Canyon. I don't know, I just think these rock features look so cool. All right, I survived the tunnel. I didn't capture the other side because, again, just like the ladders, there was another hiker coming up and I didn't want to be in the way. All right, so this is the last trail junction of the day. So I am going to take Big Spring, I'm guessing about 1.5 miles until BS2 camp. All right, that pass right there is where I have to go, and this will be the last climb of the day. Here's just a quick view back. You can see the tunnel down there, the opening to it. But have a pretty good view. Here's the top. Holy moly. All right, behind me down there is Big Spring Canyon. So I have about a mile to go to my campsite, so we have to descend now. All right, I'm finally off the slick rock and I'm in Big Spring Canyon now, short distance from my camp. Here's a shot of the way I came from. I really dig these sort of fin-like features. I think this is why they call it Big Spring Canyon, because there's apparently a spring back there. I don't think there's going to be any water here though. All right, I have arrived at campsite BS2. Hey, BS2 is actually a decent little campsite. It's very cute. There's actually a great spot to set up a tent under these trees. I think I'm gonna dig this place. All right, well, my GPS tells me that I did a total of 13.62 miles today. Now that includes me walking back and forth with the camera. So I think the real mileage was somewhere around 10 to 11 miles. That's about the same mileage I did yesterday. So this makes two 11-ish mile days. One thing that I need to state about Canyonlands is to throw all your preconceived notions about mileages and hiking out the window. 11 miles in Canyonlands feels more like 18 or 20 miles. It's an all-day hike, and that's just mainly due to the technical nature of the hikes. You are constantly scrambling up and down slick rock and stair steps, really steep ledges, occasionally going into like slot canyons. That's something to keep in mind when you come out here. But for the next 3 days, I have actually designed my route to be really low miles through a short loop that's gonna cut up through back to the car for a water and food resupply. And then I'm gonna go into Squaw Canyon tomorrow on day 3. and camp in SQ2, I believe. And then on day 4, I plan to go out to Lost Canyon and camp in LC2. And on day 5, I will be completing the loop back to the car. So anyway, I'm gonna set up my camp and make dinner. It's been a super long day. So thanks for hanging with me here, but I will see you guys tomorrow. Good morning, it's day 3. I'm just waking up, and today I just have a real short hike. I'm gonna hike 1.5 miles back to the car to resupply my food and water. And then I'm going to do a short 3.5 mile hike to my campsite for the night in Squaw Canyon. I'm just making breakfast and coffee here, and then I'm gonna get on the trail. And here's a quick look at campsite BS2. It's a cozy little campsite that's just kind of tucked off the trail. The trail is out there behind my tent. There's kind of a spur trail that leads up to the main Squaw Canyon trail. And yeah, there's a lot of room at this campsite. Some nice rock formations. And it's actually a ton of room. This would make a good group campsite. Here's my solar panel. Not doing a lot at the moment. The sun's barely out and it's kind of cloudy today. But yeah, there's the view from my site. All right, I am almost back to my car. All right, I've made it back to my car. That was a really short hike, maybe half an hour total. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna resupply both my food and water for the next 3 days. So I'm gonna carry in about 10 liters of water because as I've been told, there's no water at all along the route. So I'm gonna do that and then I'm gonna get back on the trail. Okay, so I have restocked all my supplies and now I'm going to be taking the Squaw Flat loop. So taking Squaw Canyon out to my next campsite. So with all the water I have to carry for the next 3 days, I think my pack is around 45, maybe 48 pounds. Pretty rough, but at least I'm doing low mile days for the next few days. I'm going to go down into this kind of flat area up ahead. You can see the trail off in the distance. And I think the trail goes down this way. Here's a shot of the rocks, kind of on the way into Squaw Canyon. And there is the trailhead. So I'm pretty happy that I have short miles today because it's fairly hot out and it's very sunny. So I'll be happy to camp early, and then I can get this water weight off my back and do some day hiking around the area. So we are now officially in Squaw Canyon. You can see kind of some of the undercuts in the canyon walls. There's a big crack in this canyon wall. Goes almost all the way up. I think these cottonwoods are beautiful this time of year with their leaves changing colors. This is one of those few areas of the world where both cactus and cottonwoods grow in the same place. And you can see there why they call them cottonwoods. All right, here's our trail junction. And I'm actually going to take the one that's labeled Peekaboo Springs. And look at this. I have found some water, I guess you could call it that. This is the only water I've seen out here the entire time. I suppose if one were to follow this drainage up a ways, it might be possible to find pools. But I have plenty of water on me anyway. I don't think I could actually get drinkable water from this seep. All right, I've reached SQ2. Time to make camp. So you can see here what it takes to do multi-day hikes like this in a dry season. So count it, that's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 liters total of water that I carried in for the next 3 days. All right, I've made camp for night number 3. So I've got about just over 2 hours of daylight left. So I think what I'm gonna do is make some food here, and then I'm just gonna kind of day hike around this area and see what I can get into and explore. This is kind of the upper part of Squaw Canyon. So yesterday on day 2, when I was talking briefly about Squaw Canyon, when I was filming it way down there, or from way up high. So this is the canyon that we're now in. And I don't know if it comes across on camera or not, but I see what very likely looks to be a pool of water, or maybe a seep of some kind. Well, if I were packing a normal load out of water, I would definitely be scrambling down that canyon wall to try to find any water I could. But that's not really an issue on this trip because I'm carrying in all my water. Okay, that up there is the Slick Rock sort of pass that we climbed up yesterday late in the day, right before making camp. And right where that branch is, kind of in the middle there, that's pretty much where the pass goes from Squaw Canyon into Big Spring Canyon, or vice versa. All right, I think this is the point at which I turn around. Here's some scrambling up ahead. And I've done enough of that over the last 3 days. Wait a minute. Oh, there is water down there. No freaking way. There is actually a pool of water down there. This whole time everybody's been telling me that that water source was dry, but I guess they just didn't look far enough up. Cool. All right, well, now I'm back in camp. I gotta go check on my solar setup to see how my batteries are doing. So yeah, earlier today when I first got to camp, I had to scope out a place with good sunlight to charge up my power bank, because it turns out SQ2 is a great campsite, but it gets shade really early in the day. So I had to climb up some rocks to find a good place to charge at. Just a shot of my camp below. I think it's time for some dinner. All right, well, I am back at my camp and I am currently making dinner. Tonight it's gonna be some type of chicken noodle casserole by Mountain House. Yeah, it's been a really neat day just because the hiking was kind of sporadic in different spots. I started in Big Spring Canyon and hiked just that short 1.5 miles back to the car. And I hung out the car for about 1.5 hours. So I restocked all my food and water and a few other supplies. And then there was kind of a constant stream of hiker traffic and backpacker traffic going to and from the trailhead. And so I actually had some good conversations with some people. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, and then I came up into Squaw Canyon where I'm currently camped. And I actually made camp later in the day than I expected to because I wanted to actually hike all the way up to the same pass that we did yesterday, but capture it from a different angle. But that's okay because I was able to capture a lot of that hike in the sunset. So that was really awesome. Anyway, for tomorrow, day 4, we're actually going to traverse some more Slick Rock and then go down into Lost Canyon and camp down there. That calls it a night for night 3. See you guys tomorrow. That thing looks kind of mean. And this is what it looks like when you spill an entire cup of coffee all over the ground and your bear bag. I'm a little sad right now. Well, good morning. It's day 4. All right, it is time to get on the trail. It is significantly colder today than the past few days have been. I was kind of expecting this. There's supposed to be an unseasonably cold winter storm system moving in over the next few days, but I should be hiking out before it comes into full effect. Anyway, time to get on the trail. All right, we are getting back up onto the slick rock and have a ways, at least one ladder to climb down, I believe. And you can see by the cairns, this is the way. From this vantage point, you could see the pass that we climbed up through on day 2. It is right there. It's very cold and windy up here, and now I have to descend down another slick rock slope, and down there is Lost Canyon. All right, as you can see, we have some tough scrambling to do to get down. All right, I am now in Lost Canyon, and I think I have about 1.7 miles left to my next campsite, which is LC2. Just a shot of the giant wall and alcove in Lost Canyon. A lot of Lost Canyon is this sort of a fine, deep beach sand that can make the walking a little bit slow. Lost Canyon is a bit more overgrown than the rest of the trails in the Needles. Well, Lost Canyon is a pretty interesting place. The trail at times is kind of sandy and a little bit overgrown with bushes, but it's not bad. But it's really beautiful. There's cottonwoods all over the place here, and I imagine there's probably some water in here in the springtime. I am about a mile from my next campsite at LC2. Gotta go around stuff sometimes. Whoever said Lost Canyon is completely dry just wasn't looking hard enough. Big old pool of water down there. Another one of the strange hoodoos. So last time I came out here, a buddy and I filtered from this exact same pool, and he had an MSR Guardian, which is a purifier, and it turned that water into clear, great tasting water, like it came from a spring. But I'm not even sure I would trust like a little Sawyer with this kind of water. Looks pretty disgusting. All right, I've made camp for day number 4. I'm in LC2, and it's got a great view. It's a very shaded area, so I actually had to walk a ways to find enough sun to set up my solar panel. Anyway, today's miles is pretty short. It's about 3 miles over that pass and down through Lost Canyon. There's a lot of sand and kind of overgrown on the trails, so it was still kind of slow going. Anyway, I think it's time for some lunch, and I think I'm just going to hang out for a while and kind of go from there. All right, here's a view of my camp from a different angle, so you can see just how much shade there is over here. And this is just kind of the nice little field or meadow that's kind of surrounding my campsite. Kind of closed in with it by this amphitheater here, and then it opens up onto Lost Canyon. And if you look real hard in the center, you can see there's an arch up there. So I was going to do the Peekaboo day hike route after I made camp, but again, because of all the filming I do, I think I ran out of time. It's kind of late in the day already. So I'm going to explore this spur trail that kind of goes up around my camp. So there's kind of a series of large rock walls with sort of these intersecting little slot canyons that break them apart. It's just kind of like a row of them. All right, well, that was an interesting little walk. There's a spur trail that just kind of goes around this sort of side canyon and kind of climbs up a little bit high, and you have a lot of like sagebrush and some interesting rock features. And then it just kind of loops back around to Lost Canyon. I didn't actually go loop around, I just kind of came back. But anyway, I'm gonna call it quits early today and turn in. So tomorrow, the 5th day, I'm gonna be following Lost Canyon back out to Squaw Flat and then back to the car. It'll be about 3.5 miles. Anyway, it's been an awesome day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, it is day 5, the final day. I am just gonna follow Lost Canyon on the way out, back up over a slick rock bench, and then onto Squaw Flat and back to the trailhead. Today is gonna be about 3.5 slow miles. All right, let's go. My pack is significantly lighter now than it was when I started out, and that's because I'm only carrying 1 liter today, so I doubt my pack is much more than 18, 19 pounds. But on the first day and the 3rd day, my pack was probably somewhere between 40 and 45 pounds with all the water I had to carry in. So it's quite a difference. And man, I got a spring in my step today. Here's a shot back where I came from. And this is kind of the wider part of Lost Canyon. It's full of these cottonwoods that are just lovely in October. And this just shows you just kind of how wide this canyon is right now. Looks like there are probably some hoodoos on the other side of the canyon as it curves around. And the reason that I say the miles are slow going in Lost Canyon is because a lot of the trail down here is this soft, fine beach sand. And so it's a little bit like trudging through snow, and it just makes for slow miles. Here's a bunch of that cryptobiotic soil, the stuff that the park rangers don't want you stepping on because it supplies nutrition to all the vegetation around here. And I guess it takes hundreds to thousands of years for this crust to develop. Kind of a view of the area. The trail kind of meanders down through there, so I just came up that. And now I'm going up this way. And there's Lost Canyon that I just came out of. Just amazes me how these junipers grow right out of the rocks like this. This being sandstone, you could see the weathering that they're subject to when it rains. All right, we are now ascending the Slick Rock Pass to get back down into Squaw Flat. Well, I've made it to the top of the pass. So behind me is Squaw Flat, and we're gonna hike another about 1.5 miles back to the car from there. To my left, there's most of the needles out there. And then directly in front of me, there's the Island in the Sky district. Okay, I'm just a short distance away from the trailhead, so I am going to call it quits here. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed filming it. If you like my content, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button down at the lower right, along with that bell icon so you can be notified when I post new videos. This has been a great trip, and I will see you guys next time.